Hi, everybody. Welcome to this webinar about a new game-changing technology for MSPs and scaling your business. We'll just take a minute or so while people join. Once again, welcome to the webinar about a new game-changing technology for MSPs and scaling your business. I think we'll get started now. People are still joining, but let's get started. I would like to introduce Rocco Musumechi from Exit Maximizer and Mohit Agrawal from blaZop. Both these gentlemen have extensive experience helping MSPs, Rocco with their growth and blaZop with a very innovative SaaS solution for MSPs. They have great content to share that will positively impact your businesses. Please post any questions you have in the chat box and they will be answered in the Q&A session towards the end. We have limited time and lots to share, so let's get started. Over to you, Rocco.
Thank you, Jan, and good day, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar, and I'll take you through the first piece of it, and then Mohit will catch the second piece along with a demo. So with that being said, I just want to introduce myself as Rocco Musumechi with Exit Maximizer. And during my tenure with a large MSP, we ended up selling the company 4 times. And at each one of these transactions, I had different types of responsibility, but mainly within the sales and the service delivery area. Just a few metrics for 16 of the years from 2004 to 2018 when these first transaction was done by 2004. And in the remaining transactions, we saw 3 financial transactions at 7 to 9 times EBITDA. And then the 4th transaction was at 20 times EBITDA. The metrics that went along with this is during this time frame, our revenue grew 4 times. Granted, some of that was inorganic, most of it was organic, some of it was acquisition. And then our gross margin had a CAGR of 16%, and our EBITDA grew from 8 to 13% as a percentage of revenue. So those were some pretty good numbers that brought some good results whenever we did the exit. And then as you can see from this focus is that we had a plan, and the plan really was working on the business, executing the plan, delivering the results, and then getting the benefits of those results around revenue, gross margin, EBITDA, and also around our customer satisfaction. Within our install base, and I'll get to that in just a second, but one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is the partner that I've asked to join us today. And being in the market, in the industry, looking at different partnerships that can bring value to the MSPs as we go through that consult, I found blaZop. And if we had blaZop whenever we were going through these transactions and growing the business, we would have been able to get there faster from a revenue standpoint, and also faster from an EBITDA standpoint when we were looking at taking out cost and the cost of goods sold line item. So just to give you a little bit more insight here on the install base. So what we're talking about here is a framework to build that MSP business. And around the install base, we're talking about revenue, gross margin, and customer satisfaction. So, what I ended up having to do in some of the positions is make the decision closest to the customer so that the sales and the service delivery team that was driving that customer perception, had the decision-making responsibility to make those close to the customer, increasing the share of wallet and producing adjacent services, looking at different ways that we could add different offerings, so if you go out and you find a partner that's got an offering that's complementary, you can add those offerings into what you're delivering to the customer and increase your share of wallet, grow your revenue. And then the other piece of it is what could you do if you had a partner that could actually get you a quicker road to the revenue? And what I'm talking about here is with blaZop, what we're able to do is whenever I went through an install of a major service, if it was a net new client, sometimes it would take 6 to 12 months before we would see that revenue stream start. But with solutions like blaZop, you have the ability to cut that down by 75%. So in 25% of the time, you can actually get your road to revenue started as opposed to waiting 6 to 12 months out. It could be much sooner. The second one is around profit growth. So, and Some of these things we may have talked about before, but if you're going from an on-site model to a subscription-based model, it's just making sure that you're doing some of the right things for the client that's going to be good for you and good for them. Good that you can increase your profit growth, good for them that you can pass some of those savings on to them. So it's such things like on-site, going from on-site to remote to cloud, or leveraging the existing people with projects. If you're SLA based, then whenever you've got some idle time within some of the resources that might be on site, you have the ability to turn those resources onto the projects to be able to get some of that project revenue at no additional cost. Or being able to document process in the way that you get from point A to point B, and then applying different solutions like some AI and RPA to that equation. Or have a product offering like blaZop that's going to allow you to take these repeatable processes and be able to implement them so that you can consistently produce the results just by following this process. And you can produce those results much quicker. What I'd like to do now is turn the conversation over to Mohit. And Mohit's going to take us through a presentation around blaZops and then do a demo for us. So Mohit, over to you.
Thanks, Rocco. And hello, good day, everyone. So let me start with my background. I had an opportunity to work with a very large enterprise for 15 years, leading the cloud and IT infrastructure solutions. We built various solutions to be able to operate a very, very large scale infrastructure, ranging from 500 to 600 global offices locations to thousands of data center devices. Now, to cite one of the initiatives which I was leading was called Zero Touch Deployment. You may hear the term as ZTD, to be able to reduce the cost, because for CIOs in large enterprises, the 45 to 50% of their budget goes to infrastructure growth. And there's always a pressure to reduce the cost. And we started this initiative to see if we can reduce the deployment cost and reduce the cost for bringing up the new branch office. We spent about $10 million in that initiative, but when we do the actual ROI, it turned out to be only around 6%, around 600K. So of course we had to stop the initiative because we spent more than what we could get the ROI. But what we realized is that we spent time in just building the configuration automation. So let's say if the branch office sites devices are delivered, the routers and switches are delivered to the site, just how do we configure them? But the reality is the configuration automation problem has been solved. It has been solved by hundreds of companies. Pretty much every company would have ways to solve the automation and configuration side, be it Terraform, Ansible, any other systems. And what's missing is that the 98% time of the deployment process is beyond configuration, and nobody's paying attention to that. That what is the red tape process, where it is taking time, how we can optimize that. So that broader perspective of, we need to look at something different. And hence we started this company called blaZop, which intent is to really provide a blazing fast operating model and connect people, process, and systems together. We are the only solution in the market which provides end-to-end lifecycle management for delivering the services and operating the services, largely the complex one. My name is Mohit Agarwal. I'm the founder CEO of blaZop. So as Rocco mentioned about the framework for install base of how to really get the more customer install base, get sticky customers, how to expand from day 0 to day 2 businesses, how to generate more profit growth, improve customer perception is very critical for MSP business. And it's largely meant for, providing the most customer success metrics and the business model. Now, if you think about this model is for MSP, and what we, as a speaker in the tech conferences, I had an opportunity to work and talk to various CIOs and infrastructure head in enterprise space. And when we shared our experience that, the spend we are doing and then the ROI we got, and the infrastructure is still very, very expensive to operate. Everybody resonated to that feeling. But interestingly, what they also told that they shifted that responsibility from enterprise to MSPs. So a lot of enterprises have outsourced the cloud and infrastructure management and delivering the infrastructure services to MSPs. So now if you look at from MSP standpoint, then MSP is not doing only for one enterprise, one IT team, it's doing for many enterprises. So effectively, MSP is wearing a multiple IT organization hat. So if we can really optimize on the cost side and the speed side, the speed of delivery, then for enterprise, although it was saving the cost, but for MSP, it's going to hit the bottom line in the profit margins and profit growth and more revenue. Not only that, it helps MSPs customers to have a better customer perception, as Roka talked about, the faster speed, lower cost, and better operationally available services. So now if you look at how, what we're going to talk about is how blaZop's digital platform enables MSPs to digitally operate the end-to-end lifecycle. Again, this is very unique than traditional companies, that it's end-to-end lifecycle to operate the cloud and infrastructure services. And it requires a simple change with a very, very powerful impact. So now let's look into how we see that simple change is going to work. If you look at a three-step approach, we will touch upon is how cloud and IT infrastructure services are delivered and operated. What is the workforce model for MSPs and how it is structured? And how is the customer engagement experience is offered by MSPs to their customers? So let's look into the first step is the way services are delivered and operated. For most enterprises, and so as with MSPs, they would have the service team, infrastructure team, be networking infrastructure, cloud infrastructure, conference room infrastructure, Zoom rooms, WebEx rooms, things like that. They would have architects, designers, engineers doing the end-to-end process lifecycle. And the traditional process is how you define, design, deliver, operate, and optimize. Some businesses call it as PPDIO, prepare, plan, design, implement, and operate. But the fact is that the most investment everybody does in the delivery phase of the configuration automation and not even paying attention to how the services are defined. What should be the service model? What is customer requirement? Where is it captured? Is it captured in static? It's lost after 6 months. Where are designs? Is it captured in architectures and cookbooks, and captured in documents and visuals? They're all static. They get obsolete very quick. And the reality is in MSP space, the service teams are doing the same thing again and again for every customer. So if an MSP has about 10 customers and 50 people company, they're assigning 5 people to each customer, and they're doing the same thing again and again. So what we offer is that you still follow the same process. The change here is you still follow the define, design, deliver, operate, and optimize. But instead of doing it in static and siloed tools, make a digital blueprints. The blaZop platform enables you to build the digital blueprints. You can create your service models. You can create your service architectures. You can create your service designs. You can define the overall workflow. And then so as you get the inventory to operate and optimize. And that's the core of end-to-end lifecycle. With this model, we believe that MSP should be able to standardize 60% of their services and replay to the customer side. Step 2 is how workforce model is structured. So as I said before that traditionally, the MSP model is very heavy at contracts. And if there are about 50 people in an organization, they would just assign the 5 people supporting 10 customers. And the challenge here is the customer is squeezing the budget because of as we are hitting the COVID and the recession, and the resource cost is increasing. So as a result of it, the profit margin is reducing. Some of the MSPs are getting into a bleeding space of even survival. So our model is if we are able to create those blueprints, everything is captured as digital inventory, then you can restructure your workforce a little bit differently. We think that you can form a core team, which is creating the standard blueprint inventory. They can create the standards for network designs, network topologies, branch offices, campus offices, WAN connectivity, cloud for microservices, the deployment migration blueprints, all that stuff, Zoom rooms, any infrastructure service for that matter. And if the customers would take these blueprints and your customer requirements can be met with those standard blueprints, you don't even need extra service team. Just do it as a self-service, standalone, straightforward model. But if the certain customers need the customization, then of course, you can put in the resources needed for customization and deliver it. That will make your lean structure model a very fast service delivery. Helps you increase your profit margins, support more customers, which is of scaling broader with the same workforce. And with this whole model of now, you will also get the service inventory of the customer. So now you can expand the business and get more services from the same customer. The third step is how the customer engagement experience is offered. So traditionally, if an IT customer is coming in and the customer says, this is my requirement, whether it's for cloud services, the customer is an application engineer, application team saying, this is my application requirement. Let's say I'm a startup guy and I want to offer a SaaS model of my business. I have to go figure out what services, cloud services I need to tee up together to really offer it my solution as a SaaS solution, as an example, right? Or if I'm an application guy, I just want to put together what's the right technologies. If I'm a workplace resource guy, I want to set up a new branch office, campus office, or new collaboration room in offices. What services I would need, I would not know. So we'll consult the team. And the reality is most of these teams by the domains are structured differently, either in enterprise or MSP side. So the customer is thinking about, based on my requirement, who I talk to, how would I start? And the cost is so high that I don't know where to start and who's using what. So our model is transformed from heavy engagement model to a zero engagement model, where if you're able to design those services and blueprints and make it as a self-service model for the customers, you can say that these are the services we already offer. You fill in the information. We will tell you what's the right architecture, what's the right services you would need, how much it's going to cost you. And if you're okay with it, you submit it and we'll take care of the end-to-end delivery. Now, this helps improving the customer experience, getting things fast instead of taking 6 months or 8 months to get the infrastructure services, rather than just hours and days. But not only that, if customer is done using that, for example, if customer is looking for setting up a new data science lab on AWS or GCP cloud or Azure cloud, there may be many services required to install it. But when customer is done, customer says, I'm done with it, then you just cancel that subscription and all the services which are part of that architecture will get decommissioned. So now customer can also self-service manage the end-to-end lifecycle of this subscription also. So that transforms to the overall customer experience and perception as well. So same process, if you look at from that perspective, is just the blaZop platform enables you to achieve these 3 distinct advantages from any other solution. The benefits are enormous. This is very conservative metrics, but we believe that if you're able to create the blueprint inventories, service blueprints with architectures, design everything in the digital form, then you can really increase the workforce productivity. There have been cases with MSPs when they have a lot of engineers written there, a lot of scripts are sitting in silos environment, and sitting on the laptops and all that stuff. How do you bring those scripts to the overall workflow of delivery? This also can be tied together using blaZop platform. The benefit with the blaZop platform is you don't have to start from scratch. You use, reuse, whatever it is. The focus is reusability. If you already have systems in place for configuration automation, inventory management, procurement, any of that, the blaZop solution, the delivery workflows will integrate with existing solutions to realize the value of the end-to-end lifecycle. So we will focus more on the demo. Just want to show things in action because this is real. And we will pick one use case. For example, if there is a collaboration team who's asked to set up a Zoom room setup in one of the company offices, how would the service team operating experience would look like, and how the customer who's asking for it, their experience is looking like. So we'll touch upon these two perspectives as an overall experience. The service team operating experience will cover the end-to-end experience of what we talk about, the define, design, deliver, operate, and optimize lifecycle. And the self-service customer experience will touch upon how the customer gets the subscription model and an experience to engage with MSPs or, for that matter, IT departments. So I'll jump over to a product. It's a SaaS product, as I mentioned before. It has many apps, but the first part start with creating the service models. So if you pick the Zoom room as a service, then you can see how a user can define the Zoom room for education models. So now you as a service team, your group as an MSP provider, as your service team can define the engagement model with the customers, wherein you're asking for user to provide the customer information and what is the education room information they're looking for. And by the way, the use case is how you're setting up an educational room, Zoom educational room on the customer side. And for each of these steps, you're asking what questions you want to ask the customers. This, you're pretty much, in a nutshell, if you are familiar with Google Forms, this is a much advanced version than Google Forms, where you can define your service models and forms in a much more advanced and guided way, asking a different set of questions and information. Once you're defining your service models, then you would create the architectures. So you can go and define what kind of architectures are available for Zoom. So now what your team has been doing in static tools, in diagrams, in on the studios, they can all do in the digital form here, right on the SaaS platform. These are not static diagrams. They provide the experience of drag and drop to move stuff and create the diagram, connect pieces together. But the beauty is that each of the element is programmable. You can define the operations for each of the elements, not only these elements, but also their relationship. You can define the operations of what you want these operations to perform. So these architectures become much more programmable architectures. And once you design your blueprint in the form of architectures, you can say that, okay, for a small conference classroom, this is my architecture. For larger conference room, I would need a different architecture. And design the overall programmabilities around that architecture. That would take care of procurement, configurations, deployment, everything. So this is just a Zoom room example, but the studio provides the capability to create any kinds of architecture. If you have network services, you can do that. If you have cloud services, you can create those as well. Any for that matter. Now, the important piece is, how do you really create the delivery workflows as delivery is concerned? That's where a workflow designer comes in. So for example, for Zoom room, you can design, and this is all a very, very unique experience. All drag and drop can be done by non-programmers as well, as long as they have the design and business analyst skills to be able to create the domain-specific architectures and designs, as well as create the workflows. And the uniqueness of this workflow designer is from the other solutions, it provides the flexibility to orchestrate the manual processes, as you see the human, as well as automated processes where you see the we. And this is very important for the IT businesses because an infrastructure businesses primarily because if, for example, Zoom room, the customer is requesting a Zoom room setup for educational purpose, that customer will not know what equipment list would be needed. That's something the service team will know. So as part of the request form, that detail may not be there, but as part of the delivery process, that detail has to come. And that's when this process will send the action to the service team to fill in the equipment list based on the order user has submitted. So now when user fills that in, the next process is automated, where it is go through the procurement process based on details, bill of material, the service team member has put together. So now you're doing the orchestration of manual and automated processes together. And this is the fundamental part which I wanted to highlight is that when we did the ZTD or zero touch deployment, we were focusing on the automation, but we had to think about go beyond automation. It's the manual process. 98% time was going in the processes which were not automated. And how do we really keep track? First of all, capture the data of those processes in the digital form so that our inventory is populated. And not only that, how do we also identify which of these manual processes are red tape processes we can optimize on? So now our optimization model of analytics provides and gives the insights into which of the processes are taking time. And we have a lot of AI ML models to be able to guide through your business. Now, there is a case where the robotic process automation in terms of where you want to create the deployment yourself based on the architecture deployment, or you can offer it as a self-service customer experience. So if I start from the self-service customer experience, let's say customer is enterprise IT group, or the customer could be a workplace resource team who request a Zoom room setup for education purpose. And if the customer starts an ordering option, now the form, the model which had been created by the service team is popping up for customers to fill in. And this is all data driven. There's nothing hard coded. These services, these forms, these architectures, what you see here, have been created as a representation for demo purpose, but you can create your own architectures, your own forms, your own designs, your own workflows. You can create your own based on your business. And that's what I was talking about, that you can pretty much put together your digital blueprints into your blueprints in a digital form using blaZop platform and make it reusable and repeatable to your hundreds of customers. Now, let's say if I fill in this information about the customer info, then the next question it's asking how many people are going to sit in this room. And let's say you say 15, and then we need these services. And let's say I'm going to set up my own. Then it's going to say, oh, this is an architecture you're looking like. So now, instead of the customer is looking for the architecture guidance and waiting for meeting to happen with your business, with the service architects, now they can just get it right there for the common service and standard services which works for their business. Not only that, these are not, as I said, not static architectures. They can also fill in the inventory information. So if they already have this workstation, a screen available with their inventory, they can just pick it from the inventory and get it and use it. If it's not, then they can just create an entry as part of the inventory, and then that will make as part of the CMDB. Now, let's say if the user says that not 15 people, I'm expecting about 35 people to sit in, then the questionnaire is asking, do you need a companion whiteboard or not? So let's say if I say I don't need companion whiteboard right now, then the system will say, okay, this is an architecture you're looking at, and this is your cost, and you can see the whole breakdown. These cost models, again, as a service team, you can define the cost model. You can have your procurement cost, your service team cost, implementation cost. You can put any cost items when you do the cost calculation. Everything is part of the platform. Everything is all data driven. And there is no companion whiteboard here. If user says that I'm looking for companion whiteboard, then it says, okay, then you're looking at a companion whiteboard here as well. So if you look at from the experience perspective, it's very visual, it's very digital, and besides, it gives a context. So now the customer intent is captured, your architectures are tied together, which is so define and design is together. When you submit the order, it will go through the delivery workflow, and I'll show in a second, and then that will generate the inventory. So now any item which is connected here, they will all become part of the relationship. So now based on this relationship, we can know that, okay, this device is connected to this. So tomorrow, and this is where your customer stickiness comes in, is now if you're able to do this deployment to your customer side, not only you know the complete customer intent in a digital form, you have the inventory of it, you also know what architectures were deployed, what designs were configured to the customer side. And now you also know the inventory of each of these assets and how they're connected. So you can go back to your customer and say that, well, I already have all this inventory. I can do data fill. I can do update and upgrades. I know if you're having a change process, I know which device is connected to who, which you are struggling in spending millions of dollars in discovery tools to figure out what things are connected to who, because now I already have the inventory. So suddenly you became from day zero implementation to suddenly day two implementation for the same customer. If you look at the inventory, this is, so when the workflows are submitted, you can track the status of workflow. For example, customer can track themselves, the transparency. When customer says, I submit, that's a branch office to deliver. Well, I want to need, so that shows, okay, these are your order details. This is the information you filled in for branch office. This was a service architecture, which was configured for you when you submitted the order. And these were the configuration details. And again, this is, it all depends on the advanced. In this case, our customers would be perhaps a network infrastructure team who has outsourced deployment network infrastructure to MSP, right? You can also see the order status. And the order status is very, very transparent. Now you can see the status not only just like a text feed, but you can see the status in the workflow context. So customer also have a very, very transparent visibility into where my order is. Again, this is configurable. If you don't want to be that transparent with your customers, you can hide that. But the beauty is the trust for MSPs to grow. If the MSPs, the customer perception, which Rocco was talking about, if you can provide the transparency of a business and the best service you can offer to your customers, it sets the right perception in customers' mind, besides just saving the cost for them and providing a faster delivery. Now, as far as inventory is concerned, you can get the details in inventory once the services are provisioned, the architectures are provisioned, your assets are configured, and the workflow is completed. It will update the inventory, and you can see that, okay, these are my CI items, so config items. You can see, okay, I have a branch, blaZop WAN gateway. I want to know who is it's connected to. So it says, well, it is connected to another gateway router and 2 switches. Well, I want to know how it is connected to one gateway router. Show me the context. So now it says, oh, this is the context, this is the architecture you published, and these are the devices, and there's an active link in between. So now you not only have the data point of how things, what is the configuration item inventory, how the configuration items are, or your assets are connected together, but now you also have the context of in what context they were connected. All that inventory information can be published to your inventory systems. If you're using ServiceNow or any other product, BMC as your inventory single source of truth, then all this information can be published and updated there. We already provide integration modules to integrate with various technologies. It's already out of the box, and I'll show you in a second, wherein you can take all this inventory and publish it to any of your other inventory systems. So let's say if you're using ServiceNow for ITIL processes like incident, problem, change management, and the foundation for those processes is CMDB or inventory, and this data can be published there so that you can continue to have much more richer experience and much more accurate incident, problem, and change management processes. The systems which you provide out of the box is all updated on our blaZop website. You can go to our website and see what are integrations out of the box we are providing. You can not only look into the integrations you provide, like Cisco, Meraki, and NSO product, Zoom rooms. We provide a lot of protocol-based connectors, but we also have built-in integration with things like ServiceNow and Jenkins and some other products in the market. You can not only reuse what we have, but if you want to build your own integration, we provide a complete customization flexibility. You can create your own, build your own automation with our product. You can do it. There's an automation engineer feature which allows you to create your own automation, and that's all part of this. All serverless. You don't need to do any. You don't need to procure any other server to do the deployments. You can all just create your processes in the form of, you can write your code here and deploy it. So any customization you need to do, any existing scripts or existing systems you need to integrate with, you can just pretty much write a simple Python script here to talk to that, and that will be part of your overall workflow. So the idea is, again, our focus is to make it reusable. Whatever you have, systems, scripts, tools, will make it part of the overall workflow scheme. So we covered the overall operating experience from end-to-end lifecycle perspective. We also covered the self-service customer experience from how the customer will see the automated guidance with zero engagement model and be able to track the progress from the order standpoint and can also do the manage and day-to-day changes. So we'll move on to Q&A, but before that, if you have any interest in further demos, if you're interested in free trials or want to do proof of concept with us, we will be super happy to do so. And the platform is ready. It's already launched. It's available for usage. There's a lot of information you can see on our website. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I think that was fantastic. If you have any questions, please type it in the chat box. I think you've been pretty, pretty clear on how the platform works, but I've got a couple of common questions people have come up with from time to time. One of them is, Mohit, does your team provide training and support to MSP service teams?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so they'll have help implementing it and also, bringing in their own processes and procedures into the system. The next one is, what services can be managed through blaZop platform?
So it can be any kind of services. It could be any infrastructure, for that matter, any IT services you can manage. But the complexity, since it lies with the IT infrastructure and cloud services, that's where we are saying, as you can see, a much better ROI. On our website, there's a segment of the list of services you can see. You can go back to our website here, and there's a section called by services, and that shows a list of services who can. If you have any of these businesses you're providing to your customers, you can just use that, and you can use the blaZop platform.
Thanks. And Rocco, from your point of view, is it possible for an MSP to start with you on some of the framework and not all at once?
Yes, and generally that's the way the engagements start, but an MSP can engage me in certain services that are listed on the framework. So if they need some help with revenue or some profitability or a business model question or looking at some sort of an acquisition, we can certainly start from that.
Okay. And then you mentioned some really big numbers in terms of the acquisitions and the exits you did. So will this work for any size MSP? What would typically be a good size if one of the people are listening, they might have a smaller business? What size business do you think would typically work for both of these solutions?
Yeah, so from a size standpoint, anything that you're talking about with maybe a $2 million revenue stream, okay, and all the way up. So, and a lot of people have asked, is this really apply to me, or is it just for the big organizations? And the concepts really apply across the board. But the issue is you just have to start somewhere. And so you can take the processes from the framework that have been developed, and you can implement them and start seeing the results.
Okay, great. Thanks. Well, thanks everybody. If you want to book a call with Rocco, go to talktorocco.com. It's on the screen there. And if you want to contact Mohit, there's his email, contact@blazop.com, and his phone number's there as well. Thank you very much for attending, and I hope you really enjoyed it. We had some great comments here. So yeah, have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye for now.
Bye.